Deck the halls with boughs of holly. 'Tis the season to be jolly. And spend way more than we can afford and feel it in January. December is finally here with its braais, pool parties, weddings, traveling, and celebrating like it was our last day on earth. Many of us end up spending a little more than we should, ensuring that our kids have all the Christmas presents they want, that there's a succulent goat or pig to feast on for Christmas dinner, and we consume more alcohol than all the local breweries and distilleries can provide. Only to wake up in the new year with no petrol money to come home, zero money to pay your child's school fees, and a long elaborate story to tell your landlords about why the rent is late. Blatzack. It might look like an innocent enough pastime of spending money we don't have, but your spending habits also affect the national household debt. And boy, let us tell you, it's not looking good. Factors like overdrafts, housing or renting inflation, installment credits and unemployment increase the household debt, where people turn to credit and loan sharks to make ends meet. But on top of that, far too many of us are living on credit beyond what we will ever be able to afford to pay back, with monthly deductions going to furniture, cars, rent, mortgage payments, and let's not forget paying for luxury goods, buying the latest fashions, and updating our phones every time a new iPhone comes out. The Bank of Namibia has tried to increase the rates to curb us from spending on unproductive goods and services, aka imported luxuries like that new couch and your third BMW this year. But alas, private sector debt has increased by nearly 10 billion in the past 12 months, taking outstanding debt to 76.7 billion. Yes, that's a lot of zeros. Government debt in the meantime has increased by around 22 billion to a total of approximately 54.7 billion. That's an increase of over 60% in 1 year. This is due to an increase in household, government, and corporate tax, according to this report. Although Namibia has experienced a lot of growth recently, it is not without risks. And in a macro economy like ours, where a few key sectors drive a lot of the wealth, it could cause some imbalances in our growth levels for the future. Construction activity in the country has been booming, increasing our production capacity in the long term. However, low interest rates and strong spending by the government have also fueled the growth boom that we have been experiencing. The problem, however, is that this growth is consumption-driven. And as we know, we Namibians like things. Most of these things are imported. We buy very little of what we produce domestically. Buying vehicles, furniture, and consumer electronics doesn't have a long-term positive effect for our economy. Namibia's GDP was 141 billion in 2014, according to the Namibia Statistics Agency, and it is expected to increase to around 157 billion in 2015. Public debt, on the other hand, is around 54.7 billion. Public spending is set to be in the 67 billion in the 2015/2016 financial year of the government. So in the financial year, our government allocated almost a quarter of our budget into education. 10% was spent on health and social services, 11.4% was spent on military because clearly we need more guns and hospital beds, 7% was spent on transport, 7.5% was spent on your trusty local police, and 4.3% was spent on poverty eradication, which inspired our government so much that they decided not only to create a ministry to eradicate poverty, but to encourage us to pay solidarity tax, which appears to be aimed at anyone who earns more than 79,000 per annum, which is about 6,600 per month. This is on top of the tax that we already pay, so that the government can spend more than the 67 billion they have already spent. Weirdly, we are living at large in a country where renting a one-bedroom flat in the capital can almost cost you 4,000 a month. Doesn't leave much left if you're starting the month with 6,600. And at the same time, that same government is thinking of increasing the salaries of its civil servants by 6% and forking out almost $1 billion for a shiny new parliament, although nothing is wrong with the old one. I mean, on top of all these other things. And on top of that, earlier this year, our leaders said that they couldn't afford housing. So to alleviate some of their suffering, our president is going to give some of them an increase in their water and electricity allowance, because clearly the drought and electricity crisis is hitting them the hardest. Just to show you how bad our leaders have it, let's have a look at their annual salaries, shall we? So apparently, our president Hage Geingob doesn't know how much he's earning, but the last time it was reported, it was around 1.4 million with the former president. Our prime minister earns 1.2 million, the deputy earns 1 million, speaker of National Assembly 1 million, chairperson of National Council 1 million, minister 9,400, deputy minister the 865,000, but the government doesn't seem to get it. Their bank balance can't handle the spending. With growth in income tax, VAT, company taxes, SACU receipts all slowing, this spending can't continue. It's just like that one friend of yours who's always broke but is always spending money in the club. So don't take your example from our government this festive period. Remember to spend wisely and within your means. Remember to think of the debt that our country is in, thinking about how our leaders are suffering with their struggles to find houses and pay for water and electricity bills. And if this upsets you, I guess instead of using the next election as another excuse to go shopping, you can actually use a public holiday for what it was intended and go out and vote. But until then, from us at The Link, we wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.